This problem is pretty typical of the consecutive integer problems that you're going to look at. And so if I'm looking at solving this, the first thing that I need to do is I always have to assign my variable. This is an important step. It's easy to overlook, but you have to remember that the work that you're putting forth is not for you, it's for the people who are reading your work. And so giving them some indication of what x represents is helpful for them. So the first indication that we have here that's going to help us to figure this out is looking above at what we have. So we have two consecutive odd integers. So the first thing that we know is we have two of them, so we're going to need two different expressions, and we know that they're consecutive odd integers. And as you saw in the Word Problems Part 1 homework, odd integers are still 2 units apart on the number line, which means that if I give you an odd integer like 13, the next consecutive odd integer is 2 numbers above that. So if the first is 13, the next one is 15. If the first was 27, the next one is 29. And so when we assign our variables, we're going to let x be something. So in this case, let's let x be the first integer. The next integer then is going to be x plus 2, because like we just said, anytime we give a first number, the next consecutive odd number is 2 bigger than that. So whatever number you put in for x, if you want to find the next consecutive odd integer, you just have to add 2 to that original number. Once I've assigned my variables, I need to create an equation. The equation's a little bit harder to come up with. And so in this case, what I want to look at is the key words in the problem. One key word that's good to look for is the word is, because is can be a stand-in for an equal sign, right? Sometimes we see is equal to, sometimes we see is the same as, but as we look at this, find two consecutive odd integers such that. So the first part of this helped us to assign our variables. The such that is kind of a divider between our assignment of variables and our relationship. Now we're going to look at our relationship. The larger number is 7 more than twice the smaller number. Okay, and so this is a step that I like to take that I call it Manglish. It's a made-up word, right? Not quite math, not quite English. That's expressing this relationship. Our larger number, which we actually know, the larger number is x plus 2, is 7 more than twice the smaller number. And so twice, that represents multiplication, right? We're doubling our number, which means we're going to multiply it by 2. And we can go through this process every single time. Now we can start the process of solving this equation. So x plus 2 equals 7 plus 2x. And now we're just solving an equation like we would before. We're going to get all of our x's on one side, all of our non-x's on the other. And my personal opinion is it's too easy to drop a negative from a coefficient. So I do everything that I can to keep my coefficients positive. So I'm going to subtract x from both sides. And 2x minus x is x. And then I'm going to subtract 7 from both sides. So 2 minus 7 is negative 5. And now I have my solution, right? X equals negative 5. The two consecutive odd integers are negative 5 and this is where things get difficult, right? But it's a good thing that we wrote out our assignment of variables. X is our first integer. So if x is negative 5, the second integer can be found by adding 2. Negative 5 plus 2 is negative 3. The last step always is to check our work. And when we're looking at a word problem, yes, we want to make sure that negative 5 solves our equation that we had, but we also want to check to make sure that our answer is reasonable. We were told that we were looking for two consecutive odd integers, and negative 5 and negative 3 are consecutive and odd, so they meet that requirement. From there, we want to ask ourselves the question of whether or not this is a true statement, right? Does this value check? So -5 plus 2, that's -3. Is that equal to 7 minus 10? And it is. So it checks.